With Elden Ring, Nightreign, and the Duskbloods both being multiplayer games, it obviously received some backlash due to the FromSoft audience being mainly single-player focused. Most people are disappointed, which is perfectly understandable, and then there is like a select few out there that assume that every single multiplayer game is slop and just can't be good, which is obviously a silly take. There are many good multiplayer games out there, it's just not for everyone. But being mad at From Software for not doing what they want and making these multiplayer games is just very pretentious, because the output of FromSoft games is completely unparalleled. Like, imagine being like a CD Projekt Red fan, a Naughty Dog fan, or even a Rockstar fan. You're waiting forever for a game. Whereas with FromSoft, we're getting basically yearly releases, and at least 7 of these titles pretty much fall under the same genre and style, but we're getting mad at them for not giving us more? Are they not even allowed to just make fun little side projects to experiment until their next major release? Like, Duskbloods and Nightreign isn't going to be their next major game. They're definitely working on at least 3 games right now, the 2 multiplayer games, and then one of them is most likely going to be that single-player game for the PS5, Series X, and Steam, leaving the old generation behind, most likely building it on a brand new engine for the first time in forever with all that Elden Ring money. It's just going to take some time, and I guess From Software didn't want another Elden Ring situation to where they announced the game way too early and have people demanding for more info. Like, before Elden Ring came out, there were people even questioning its existence if it was even real. But instead, what they're doing now is just giving us smaller titles to keep us occupied in the meantime. FromSoft hired a bunch more staff and currently have over 400 employees, which for comparison, that is actually more than the likes of Naughty Dog and Santa Monica. But they're doing all this just to continue the streak of just constantly putting out games that they've been doing for the past 20 years now. Like, gaming companies, or just like artists in general, should just have the creative freedoms to do what they want. It's those same freedoms that give us the games that we love. So trying to shoehorn From Software of all companies into being a one-trick pony is just insane. Like, 1, they don't owe us anything, and 2, it's not like they suck at making different stuff. They're actually good at doing different things. Now, the question is still going to stand. Why? Why are From Software making multiplayer games? And I have a pretty good idea why. In fact, I have 3 reasons why. Number 1, we are at a point right now with the Souls genre that we can't really go much further. And From Software is going to have to like re-innovate. Beforehand, when they had games like DS2, Bloodborne, DS3 in consecutive years, it was back in a time where the genre was still relatively new and they were trying new ideas to perfect it, but now there are so many more Souls-likes out there, and with a game like Elden Ring, what's the next step for FromSoft? Because Elden Ring seemed like the game they've always wanted to make. They've always talked about wanting to make an open world game, and with everything that they actually learned throughout the years making Souls games, it just all culminated into Elden Ring. So it really feels like the ending of like this Souls saga. Most of the Souls fans nowadays are still relatively new to the series, so from their perspective, this is all still very fresh. But from Software's perspective, they've been making these games for like well over 15 years now. And we're at a point where these games can't get much bigger, have as many weapons, the bosses are as fast as they come, the games can't really get much more cinematic or grand. Like, we have pushed the genre to the limit, at least as of this current hardware. Yeah, there are some like Souls-like games out there that have some like more detailed combat, but in this genre, cool-ass combos can only really carry you so far. So not only do you have to try and find a way to build a new combat system, but you also need a handful of innovative gameplay mechanics that we have never seen before, and like actually good gameplay mechanics and not just gimmicky ones. They have done it before and they definitely can do it again. Now, how does this tie into them just making multiplayer games? And that is because the new major game hasn't come out yet. That innovative game that I'm talking about, it hasn't been released. And that game is going to be like the groundwork. It's going to be the foundation that's going to set up the next generation. Like, that next game is going to be the equivalent of Demon Souls. And then when you make that next generation's Demon Souls, then you can start making the Dark Souls and Bloodborne equivalents. But until we get that game, in the meantime, FromSoft is just better spending their time innovating in other areas. There's so much to learn in just delving into different genres, and it will just help them stay ahead of the competition, which I think that is just much better than using all their coolest themes and settings on games in a genre they've already dominated in. I'm not saying that like they should just completely stray away from the whole like Souls type of combat, but these next set of like major releases they're going to have, it has to be something that feels completely different. Otherwise, it's going to get stale really fast. I think the fans are just used to gaming companies like Ubisoft to just constantly milk their best titles, and it's like plagued the gaming community to just never really think large scale ever, and it doesn't really help when gamers just constantly beg for sequels all the time. Like, just because you can't think of a cooler concept that's potentially better doesn't mean that these gaming companies can't. FromSoft is one of the last true AAA companies out there that can actually innovate and make genre-defining stuff. Now, you can very well accomplish this whole making games in different genres thing while not necessarily having them be multiplayer, which kind of leads into my second point, which specifically for the Duskbloods, Miyazaki himself has stated that he's always wanted to make multiplayer games. He's been a big fan of Tarkov, and he's wanted to make a game like it, which Tarkov is a PvPvE game, just like the Duskbloods, which he is also directing. So yeah, there you go. And I guess for Miyazaki, it can be a pretty risky move, so you need to find a good opportunity just to be able to drop a game like this. And I guess they did so with Nintendo. It's not the complete worst time to be dropping a random game like this, because it's not like you've gone years without ever dropping a game. And I'm guessing that Nintendo just sent a very big bag, like a very hefty sum of money. Because if you guys did not see the direct, the big part of the Switch 2 showcase was the multiplayer functions and showing off like the new game chat button. They're also introducing game share so people can play with their friends without even having to own the game. Now, no, I'm not defending exclusives by any means. I think they're dog shit. I'm just letting you guys know why this is happening. There might be some chance that the Duskbloods ends up coming to PC sometime in the future, because From Software does completely own the IP. It's not owned by Nintendo, like how Sony owns Bloodborne. But it seems like From Software, Nintendo, and even Sony are really trying to get more into the multiplayer market. Like, all those companies are mostly developing single player games, and there's lots of money involved with multiplayer, as the audience and demographic can honestly be just as big, if not larger, than the single player audience nowadays. And as much as people like to think otherwise, multiplayer in PvP in these Souls games are actually huge, like especially the PvP. Before Elden Ring came out, if you wanted to see ranking videos for weapons or build videos, 9 times out of 10, they were just for PvP. That was most of the end game, and it wasn't really until Elden Ring came out that these games got a bigger PvE scene. Now, when it comes to why they're making a game like Nightreign, this is very simple, and that is because of this right here. The Seamless Co-op mod. By far the most popular mod that Elden Ring has, with its 9 million downloads. Like, there have been so many people that have bought this game just to play this mod. And I know people personally, like friends and family, that are literally going to buy Nightreign and they've never played a single Souls game in their lives. And that's because people like multiplayer games. So if you just look at it from that perspective, it just makes more sense. And the thing is, From Software has always done this. They've always tried to branch out and just get more players on board. That's the reason why they make brand new IPs instead of constantly making sequels. Making games like Bloodborne and Sekiro ended up getting a bunch more different types of players that didn't really play the Dark Souls games, and now we're going to have games like Nightreign and Duskbloods is also going to gather a different audience. Which, yes, this is going to take away from your main target audience, but From Software doesn't owe the fan base any more than it's already given them. Let them just make new games and not be forced to make sequels. Now, they could have very well just implemented the Seamless Co-op mod as an update, but obviously that would take a lot of effort and money to make it run smoothly, which if you haven't played the Seamless Co-op mod, there are so many like bugs and game-breaking bugs. So it's just much safer for them to just make a brand new application, a whole dedicated multiplayer experience, so they can actually sell it and potentially build around it too. You have all these brand new people you hired in the company, so you might as well just get them on board, get them into the flow of things by having them work on these like small side projects and potentially try to innovate with more combat mechanics. And now that Duskbloods is a thing, it kind of makes more sense why Nightreign was actually given the green light. It's probably just going to be a big beta test for Duskbloods and other future implementations of multiplayer. And if you were to think of From Software's biggest weakness, it would be the online features and performance. So best case scenario is that they really hone in on making the online experience better from here on out, and they just make a bunch more money to go into the budget for their next major releases. This is just like a win-win situation. Mainly for Nightreign, Duskbloods is not really much of a win with its exclusivity and its price tag, which definitely should be criticized. And you can criticize Nightreign as well with just being reused assets. But there are so many gaming companies out there that just make spin-offs based on like universes and worlds they've already built. So it's not the most offensive thing in the world. I do have some more critiques about the game, but I've already talked about that in a previous video. But yeah, that is basically everything I did want to cover. Unfortunately, I don't think this video is going to get many views as like my ranking videos and stuff, which is a shame because I'm sick of the FromSoft community having like the worst takes known to man. Like, God, I hate the internet sometimes. And it's like one of the only downsides of actually being a YouTuber. And that is like you're forced to actually engage with the community and actually listen to their takes. It's awful. Anyway, catch you guys in the next one. See ya.